Good evening, beautiful people. Good evening. I decided to start a little early tonight because I want to get in. I want to start at 9 o'clock on the dot because we have a lot of topics to cover, and I want to try not to be on as long as I was last week, but whatever the Lord says is what it is. Hey, Kim, happy Friday, lady. I pray that you had a blessed week. We're going to give it 2 more minutes, and then we are going to get started. Because like I said, I'm really excited about my guest, and I'll go into that in a little while. But while we are waiting, go now, get a pen and paper. Because my guest, she gives homework. Okay, she is very hands-on, the hands-on type. I'm yelling like I don't have a microphone. She's very hands-on. So it's gonna be a good thing for you to get some paper and a pen, your journal that you write in, whatever it is that you can have or get, so that we can get started. So I pray everyone had a great week. I pray that everyone had a great week and that everyone stayed safe and warm despite the cold weather and our first snowstorm that we had for 2020. All right, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go. All right, so welcome to Cultivating Conversations, my beautiful people. Cultivating Conversations is a podcast, and it's a safe platform where we have thought-provoking dialogue about life, love, the pursuit of happiness, and everything in between. I'm your host, Stacey T, and it is my hope and prayer that through this platform, our conversations will plant seeds and hearts and minds will be cultivated, which will bring about healing, restoration, and wholeness. So like I always say, in order for something to grow, you have to plant it. And in order for it to grow and for you to plant it and for it to be successful, it needs to be on good ground. So the whole purpose of this podcast is to create and cultivate good ground in our minds, in our hearts, and have thought-provoking conversations about tough topics. Some topics are taboo, but the whole point of it is to get it out and expose it so that we can be better. We want to be better for ourselves. We want to be better for our family, our loved ones, our children, and our community. So tonight is episode number 3 for season 2. And this month, the catch word is pivot. Okay, I've been talking about it for the last couple of podcasts, and the Lord gave me the word pivot because a lot of things has been happening in our world, as we already know, and we're now at the end of 2020. We're at the end of the first year of a new decade, a year that none of us thought would end up like this. And it can kind of leave you feeling away. You know, a lot of us really, really hoped and prayed that we would be out of this pandemic. We wouldn't see all of these people dying. God knows we didn't expect the racial unrest and for it to be, to the magnitude that it was. Job loss, people losing their homes. There's just so much going on, and there can be a level of uncertainty. And so all of these emotions, all of these things that we see on TV can leave us feeling away. So this month's theme is pivot. So the first episode in season 2, we talked about pivoting in a pandemic, and that's kind of like the running theme. Last week, we talked about pivoting in our relationships and marriages. And wasn't that great with Allison and Dwayne Murray? Like, it was just so wonderful. So what I wanted to do this week was I wanted to speak to pivoting our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions, because we are exactly a week from Christmas. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about Christmas, not wanting to go broke, like don't go broke buying gifts for people and this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth. But outside of the gifts outside of all of that, Christmas is at the bare minimum. Whatever you feel about the holiday, it's still a time to get together with your family, right? So the one thing that we have been trying to do for all of 2020, what we've been wanting to do for all of 2020 has been taken away from us. And now at the height of when we would want to get together, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we're not able to. So what does that look like? How are we feeling? How are we navigating through this? How are we processing through it? Well, you know, in season 1, I've given my thoughts and I've, done my research and things like that. But I thought that with this being the week exactly before Christmas, 2 weeks before New Year's Eve, 2 weeks before the start of a new year, I wanted to bring a professional on to be able to speak to us and try to get those things out. And it's a starting point, right? I'm not expecting, I would love for everybody to be like, I'm healed, delivered, and set free from this podcast. To God be the glory. For some, you may need further sessions, talk to somebody or something. Again, this is to plant the seed. So without further ado, my guest tonight is Gidget Smith, MFT. Gotta 3 words because she earned them. She is the CEO and director of Etsah Solutions. She is a mother. She's a wife. She's a daughter. She's a great friend. She's a friend of mine. She's my good sis. And she is a marriage and family therapist. So I want you all to welcome Dr. to be. Hey. I'm prophesying. I was prophesying right there. See how I did that. I want to introduce my good sis, Gidget Smith.
Hey, I received that. Yes, go be. I am tired, but I'm good. I'm just keeping it 100.
So rule number 1, be honest.
Yes, have to be honest.
We are starting already. So take a couple of minutes and just introduce yourself to everyone and tell the people what it is that you want them to know about you.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Gidget Smith. I am a marriage and family therapist. I am the CEO director of Etsah Solutions, and I do individual, married, group, family therapy, along with group seminars dealing with any form of like anxiety, separation, depression, teen groups, adult groups, grief groups, you name it, anything involving therapy, I pretty much do.
Nice. Okay, so I have one personal question for you, and then we'll get into, because I feel like, in this era that we're in, and it's a great thing, therapy for Black folk, Black therapy was taboo for a very long time, and I think that we've gotten to a place where we can't fake the funk anymore. We can't act like it's not a necessity. We can't act like it's not needed. We cannot act like it doesn't help.
Right.
And so we're finding a lot of Black therapists coming on the scene now. So I just want to ask you, like, what made you decide to become a marriage and family therapist? Because if I remember correctly, this was not your concentration.
It definitely wasn't at all. I will not try to sit here and try to front at all. It was really the Lord's doing, to be honest. I was in prayer. He dropped in my spirit to go back to school to do to be a Christian therapist. That's exactly what he said to me. And I was just like, that's an oxymoron, because I have my bachelor's in psychology. And so I just kind of shooed it away because I was like, nah. So then I had went to a revival, and this pastor from Africa called me in the corner and was like, you lady in the corner in all Black, come to the front. And I had not shared with anybody what the Lord said. I didn't tell my husband, I didn't tell my friends. I just kept it to myself. I really thought I was going crazy. So he was like, yes, you come to the front. And he was like, prophet. He said, I know you're a prophet. He's like, but you have to do what God has told you to do. So I'm looking at him like, okay. And he was like, God has called you to be a Christian therapist. And so when he said that, I just started to cry because I was kind of fighting it. And then I just went to school and I was asking the Lord what kind of therapist. And he told me to be a family therapist, but I happened to go to the mental health counseling sector, being a little disobedient. And I'm just keeping it real. So, and I was pregnant at the time with my third child. And so when I was pregnant during that time, she had died. And so while going through that process, the Lord told me that I told you to go into family therapy because I want you to be able to provide insight, realistic feelings in regards to parents, women who, families that may have suffered loss, and be able to come at a perspective that will help them. And so once I did that, I thrived, and here I am today.
Wow. It's funny, the way, God does things. He's always intentional, right? And he always, um, things may take us for a loop. Like what? Even if we hear it, just there's something about getting that confirmation where you're like,
Yes.
oh, I wasn't crazy. But if everyone who has been called by God at some capacity, you can almost, looking back in hindsight, see the paper trail.
Yes.
God
Yes.
setting you
So
up.
true.
So I'm gonna share this, and Gidget doesn't know
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna share this
Oh,
because
Lord.
I've been thinking about it ever since I had to come on and how things come full circle. And I really, sometimes, you hear things and we know that, like, Lord, he prepares you and things like that. But when you really, really start to look, and for those of you who are watching now or are going to watch the replay and you've read my book, Where Do I Go From Here? Redefining Yourself After Heartbreak and Brokenness, and it can be found on IamStaceyT.com. That's not really a shameless plug, but kind of is. But
Listen, girl, get it.
uh, for those of you who read my book, there is, I believe, because I did not give real names. I did not give all names. I just spoke in ambiguity. So I believe I spoke about, if I haven't spoken about it, I've definitely spoken to it when I would go and preach and teach and do, like, my book reviews and things like that. And I spoke about a person after I got really, really upset in learning about something that changed my life forever. And I talked about how I called somebody and she told me to come and get her. And she drove me around for 4 hours while I screamed and yelled and cussed. Gidget is that person.
Oh,
And
God.
I know, but I need to say that because we don't do things for gain and notoriety and things like that, right? And you were there for me at such a pivotal moment, not even knowing back then in 2009, 2008. In 2008, you didn't know then that you was gonna be in this place, but God knew.
Absolutely not.
What to do. Like, you were just like, come and get me so I can drive you so that you don't crash into somewhere because you're irate, you're going crazy, you're like, you cannot be out in the street at 1 o'clock in the morning driving like this. You get pulled over by the cops, like, come and get me. And you drove me around from the hours of 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. This was the woman. This was the woman. So publicly, and I said it to you, and I said it to people, you were my lifeline. You were my lifeline. And I thank you for that because, and I'm not trying to be facetious and funny and be fake hood. I really am hood. For real. I don't know. You know what I'm like? You just don't know when you can speak to that. When you get to a certain level of rage, you don't can say whatever they want. Oh, I would never. Oh, you do not know when you get to that certain point. And I don't know. I could have ran
Absolutely.
into a car. I could have ran the car off the road. Anything could have happened. You know what I mean? But God was setting you up even then
Facts.
to be
Facts.
where you are
Yeah.
now. So
Amen. Yeah.
I was thinking about it ever since I asked you, like, wow, he was grooming her then. God be
The Lord be oh, he be doing stuff.
I'm like, no, he be knowing. All right. Anyway, okay. So I have a couple of topics tonight, and that's probably going to be the most talking I'm going to do because I just want to shoot
Uh-oh.
out to you and then keep on with it. So the first topic we're going to talk about is grief during the holidays. And I'm going to speak to, we're going to speak to the loss of a loved one by death and the loss of a loved one by relationship. Because
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand that it's real.
Yeah.
It's real because there's still a death that is taking place, even though it's not physical. So, the loss of a loved one by death, the loss of a loved one by relationship. And the question is, how do you navigate through those triggers, especially during the holidays?
Okay, so a couple of things. The first thing is okay. Can they hear me? As long as they can hear me. Okay. So the first thing is that no, it's okay. We're trying to do this thing. Okay. So the first thing is that I am a firm believer that grief has nothing to it does not only encompass just someone who has died physically in physical form. Grief can come in relationships, it can come through health, it can come through finances, you name it. Anything that is lost, that meant something dear to you, or physically is no longer here, or physically no longer a part of something in your life, it is considered grief. Right. And so now, when it comes to the holidays, most clinicians know that we get influx from the time of October all the way until February is the most heaviest months of clients coming in regards to getting anxiety, having, seasonal depression. I spoke about that. And so, so having that is where people are ready from the time October happens, bam, they are sad, depressed, anxieties up with the time going back. It's dark. So it can also create an atmosphere of darkness and loneliness. And so, and now you also have relationships. There's some people who, they either got engaged during Thanksgiving, Christmas time, they're no longer engaged. So now that memory of that comes about, and it basically has the same effects, right? It can come from anger, bitterness, loneliness, sadness, all kinds of different feelings that you may feel within your actual body, because feelings is actually a physical sensation. And like, when a lot of times we don't necessarily think of it as such, but think about it. When you are angry, your body physically gets hot, your head hurts, your your hands may be sweaty, your armpits may be sweaty, your heart is racing, right? And then when you feel sadness, you may feel like a dead body's on you, or emptiness within your stomach, right? When you have anxiety, you may have like palpitations, stuttering, loss of voice, and so forth. So all of these physical sensations happen. And so, one thing that I usually tell any of my clients is that to remember that these are physical sensations, and you have the ability to control that, right? Because what ends up happening is that we allow the secondary emotions to overtake the feeling of emotions. So, what are secondary emotions? Secondary emotions are we're blaming other people for our issues and problems. We overthink, we start complaining, we start self doubting, over analyzing ourselves. Why didn't I do this? Why are you so sensitive? Oh, what's going on with me? I wasn't good enough. Why did that person die? Why did this happen to me? So all of these things, so your secondary emotions overtakes your actual emotions. And what people do is they hide in the secondary so much, and so it becomes so magnified. So it's important that, and then what people do after that, once they feel the secondary emotions, they go to uncontrollable, not healthy habits such as overeating, indulging in alcohol, substance abuse, alcohol abuse, sex abuse, right? Some people just go into a frenzy of that, or they undereat, they don't eat at all, or they overeat, or they're on social media for 3 hours, right? And so you're doing all of these different things because why? You don't want to deal with your emotions, right? And so I personally believe that if you do not have, if you have how would I say it? If you're not dealing with the root of the emotion, which is sadness, right? And so it's important for you to deal with the actual feeling that you have and not the secondary, okay? Because the secondary is louder. So when you say to yourself, okay, Gidget, why am I doubting myself? It has nothing to do with me doubting the situation. It's because I'm sad. So when you get to the pivotal feelings of the matter, which is anger, sadness, happiness, all of these are emotions that is linear, right? And then sometimes it can become encompassed of all of it at once. But once you get to realize this is a physical sensation that I'm feeling, and I need to deal with why am I feeling this? When you deal with the why, then you can deal with the issue. But if you are living in the secondary world and that's overtaking you not being able to handle your emotions, because that's when secondary emotions come in, because you can't handle whatever the situation or topic is.
Or has it gotten to a point where it's so much and becomes so insurmountable? It's going to come out some way.
Absolutely.
And then secondary emotions come in because that's how it's flushed out, even though it's not healthy.
Exactly. And then what ends up happening is that if you're not dealing with the hurt, right? And you're not dealing with the sadness or whatever that is hurting you, unmanaged feelings then brings about other unmanaged, unconditional cycles of hurt that then leads out to other people. Why? Because you don't know how to deal with your feelings. And we're so taught so many times, especially in the Black and Brown community, that showing your feelings means that you're weak, right? And so if those who are grieving during this season, they're not taught that grief is a part of life.
Mhm.
Grief is as close to as love, right? So grief and love are like this, okay? And so that no one can tell you who to love, how to feel in love, but you.
Right.
Same thing with grief. No one can tell you how to grieve, what grief should look like, when it should turn off, the same way love. So if people stop looking at grief as something you can fix, right? And look at it as an experience, then many people will not be hurting the way they're hurting.
Look at grief as an experience. Wow. Wow. Okay. Can you speak to those who may find themselves in counsel with those, meaning they're doing the counseling with those who have lost or who's going through grief as a result of a divorce?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's treated differently.
Mm.
though it still has the same connotations, and
Yeah, divorce is grief. It's a death of, so let's just, let me be very clear. Divorce is grieving a living person. So we cannot, the problem what people do a lot of times with grief is that they put it in your grief and my grief and the battle of who's grieving more, right? And the issue is that, like, let's say if I break my pinky, it hurts, right? And so if it's broken, I may be grieving that I can't write anymore. Why? Because the function of my finger for this temporary moment is not functioning the way it should.
Mhm.
Versus if someone slams the door and my pinky finger is gone completely. So in both situations, the individuals are hurting in their own different way. And both situations, their finger is not, one is maybe temporarily cannot function the way it would temporarily.
Mhm.
And then the other person, it may be long lasting for lifetime. There is a change. So divorce and grief it's under grief, because you're no longer going to be the same. Whether persons want to realize it or not, you're not going to be the same. People have to then grieve the fact that they're not with the family if they like the family. Some people, that's a grief of escape. Okay, let's keep it 100. All right. And then there's the grief of loss of friends, because there's times where people have common friends with the person they're with, and now they don't know how to channel that. So they now have to learn their new tribe, if you will. And then, then it's grieving just the being around family, or having if they have kids to play, that oneness with their kids. So that's a loss. And so to say to somebody that you're not grieving or to get over it, that's kind of like selfish, because no, that's not kind of, it is selfish, because a person has to grieve their divorce in their own way. You cannot put a timeline on grief, whether it's divorce, whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, whether it's a living person that has passed on. You cannot tell someone. I personally don't believe, I know that there's grief steps and stages, but everything is not okay. This person's going to be angry right now. This person's going to be happy right now. This person's going to, no, I personally don't believe that. I believe that you can do a range of that. Sometimes all ranges is in one, so everyone you have to feel the emotions that goes on, because if you don't, unmanaged feelings turns into dangerous grounds.
Okay, so let's talk about navigating through the triggers, because at the baseline, the trigger is going to make anybody feel a way that's grieving, but you have the triggers of, and they both can kind of like intertwine, like a favorite scent of a person, a place that you used to go to, whatever type of annual things you used to do during the holidays with that person, whether they are, alive or deceased. Whether it's a relationship like, a romantic relationship, or it's a parent, or a child. Like, how do you recognize those triggers, and what do you do to navigate through them? Because, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a fix. It's something that you just gotta, and I'm learning this. For instance, we was watching, the Lord would not allow me to remember this movie. We was watching a movie a couple of weeks ago, and there was a part of the movie, somebody died. I do not remember who it was. And for those of you who don't know, and my mom passed away last year on November 6th. somebody died and it was me, Zariah, and Kyra watching a movie, and I had to get up and leave. I've watched this movie plenty of times, even since my mom has passed away. I came in my room, and when I tell you, I have not cried like that since the day that I was in the elevator the night that I found out about her diagnosis. And I was just, at first I was like, where is this coming from? Like, it was, it triggered me so bad, but then I had to quickly get out of the, like what is happening, and be like what somebody told me, gentle with myself, to say, it's a trigger. You're still grieving. It's not going to go away right away. It probably won't ever go away, because
It will not. That's something that people have to realize. You have, all right, so going back to your question, right? So triggers. So it's important that with anyone who's grieving in any capacity, it's important for you to realize that anything can trigger you at any moment, especially when grief is fresh. Usually people, from what I've seen, I've noticed when I'm dealing with those who are grieving, the first year is hard, but the second year, going into the second year, is terrible, right?
Okay,
Because
you don't help me. I'm about to cash app you, because you helped me.
so it's important for you to accept your limitation and don't beat yourself up. Don't, whoever's listening to me, I want you to understand it's important for you to accept the limitations that you have, and don't beat yourself up about it, right? Because a scent can happen, a song can happen, right? And at any given moment, think about when you love the ocean. So I'm gonna give you an ocean. I think everybody up in here want an ocean right about now.
Listen,
Anyway,
right.
so think about an ocean. When the ocean happens and the waves are coming, think about that. The waves are crashing, hitting you. You can't hold on to it. It hits you hard. It goes through your body, and then it leaves, and then it goes down. So it's important for you to understand that with grief, you have different emotions that may come, that may clash around you, and you can't hold on to it. It's important to feel the hit, let the water go down, take a moment. Okay, right now I'm feeling upset that my mom is not here with me right now. Feel that emotion. For someone who may be out there that has lost a child, you may feel that hit. Right now, my child is not here. Someone who's just broke up in a relationship that may be on the line. Okay, his scent is there. You smell a cologne, or you smell a perfume, and you may just trigger you and bring you to a place. Say, okay, recognize, accept. Okay, acceptance. I should probably tell you my acronym now, but when you're grieving, I call it the CAST system. Okay, so there may be some form of companionship. Companionship when you're grieving doesn't necessarily mean someone you want to be intimate with. Companionship means it could be your tribe, it could be your boyfriend, it could be your husband, it could be your sister, it could be your children. Someone that can be there for you you can be there to rest on, lay your head at, be yourself, tell how you feel. Okay, that's what companionship is, being able to be yourself with whoever it is. Okay, and then you have accountability, someone that you can be accountable to and say, listen, I need you to be here with me, because guess what, I cannot go to Aunt Lynn's house. Okay, and Auntie Lynn, I'm not specifically talking about you, I just thought about your name. Okay, so but I can't go to Aunt so and so's house right now because that's a trigger for me. And if I go, which is going to go to my homework, so I hope you guys got a paper and pen. So, having that accountability person, okay? And then you have to be sustainable. Now, sustainable doesn't necessarily mean that everything is right, but understanding like, okay, right now I need to sit in my feelings, understand that holiday season is never going to be the same. And don't make it the same. This is where you have to, for those who are grieving, you may have to do a new tradition. This year you may not want your tree up. Okay? You may just want to give presents, play somebody's favorite song throughout one in the beginning of the day. Set yourself up. Okay? Because what happens is, which we're going to go into the activity, but I don't want to give it too much, but you have to have that mindset like, okay, it's coming. What am I to do next? Okay. Then you have your tribe, because guess what? After the dust has settled, the funeral, your relationship, your limbs, your health, your finances has gone. Everybody has a new set of people that always come in, right? And that tribe is there for you through your grieving process that you're able to lean on. Okay, so it's important for you to have these four things, because when you have these four things, then you're able to be real about your feelings. Okay, and then also for those who are mourning the loss of a loved one, it's important that you say their name. Now, why is that important?
Mm.
Because that person stays alive in you, and they're not, and your feelings are not being disregarded. Okay? Because what people tend to do is that when they don't want to mention the person's name, because they don't want the person to feel, a certain way. Oh, I don't want to say, I don't.
Yeah.
No, say their name,
Mm.
because this person, for whatever time, has been in your life, right? Now, let's get to the relationships. A lot of times when people break up and they go through their grief process, they just want to X out everything. No, there's some great things that you may have done with John, and you love doing this. You keep that. John ain't there because John or Mary was not fit for you for at this time. And
Right.
now with them being gone, that doesn't mean you X out everything. No, there's some things that you may have loved to do, and you found something in yourself that you love. Now you're going to explore it from the point of, okay, you know what? I really like this. Let me see how this is without such and such. And you may find that you actually love whatever this activity is.
Mhm.
But what happens when people just disregard their feeling for how they felt about Mary and John, and they close out, then they have those um the emotions that they did not deal with, that filters out and comes out later on in relationships, right? And
Mhm.
so, just, a little, I have no shame in my game. So most of the persons that have the highest divorce rate are second marriages. Why is that? Because one, they didn't deal with their feelings. They dealt with the secondary emotions, but they didn't deal with the baseline emotions.
Mm.
Okay, and so they dealt with the doubting of self, or the blaming, or things like, words that, saying to them, oh, you gonna get a divorce again, or you're not good enough, or they deal with all the secondary, and that becomes louder. So if people don't deal with the emotions and the feelings that they have, they're just gonna do a perpetual cycle that will feed off with other people and the people that will come after in their lives.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot, but it's true. I hope y'all taking notes
I
because
hope so too, because I don't got no pad for y'all. Y'all gonna have to do this.
and, and I'm trying to write little excerpts, but I can't catch all of this. So you better catch it in the spirit.
Yes, and you know what? And people don't feel like you have to have a holiday that you should have. No, you make it your own way. So there may be, okay, you if you your parents or your child is not there, or what have you, prepare a favorite dish so they're still incorporated, right? So, like, I think the other day, if you don't mind me sharing, you had put up your mom's pies,
Mhm.
right? And
Thanksgiving.
so, and when you made it, how did it make you feel?
It made me feel good. I felt good because I was one of those people where I didn't want to see her pictures. I didn't want to speak to her because I just felt like I would fall apart. And I was tired of falling apart because I had been falling apart about so many other things. But I was like, I know this isn't healthy. This isn't healthy. Like I've gone through therapy. So my therapist was talking about the same thing that you were saying. So I said on Thanksgiving, I've never made a sweet potato pie before in my life. I was going to, because nobody did it like Miss Minnie. Nobody did it like Miss Minnie. I'm not even trying, but she's not here. So I was like, for me, that was a way of kind of taking control of, you know, how I was feeling, and taking control in a sense of allowing myself to go through whatever emotions that would come out as a result of making that pie. I did lament a bit, like, wow, but I was like, Mommy, I did it. Like, I made the pie. Like, it's never going to taste like yours, but it's a tradition that now I'm starting because she's not here.
There you go. So see, that's one of my things. You have to strategies. You do a new tradition, not forgetting the person that has passed. And so you incorporate a dish. Maybe an ornament that, you know, for those who have little kids or even a teens, you know, they may have like, okay, you know what? My grandmother, my aunt, my father loved music. So now I'm going to have an ornament of a symbol of a music there, so that there's still a part of you, right? Then I had a one time I had a client who didn't want to see a tree at all. I said, well, then don't have it. See, because sometimes the problem is that if you're resting on the expectations of other people, it's going to drain you. So why do that? To appease who?
Right.
For what? And why? Right? So, you know, so doing all of that is going to take away, and also recognizing that you may not want to be bothered with people. And that's okay. You know, and so it's okay to speak your truth. I think a lot of times people are afraid to speak their truth because they feel that they're going to hurt someone. But why are you going to hurt yourself? Right? Then I had a client who didn't, like I said, didn't want a tree, so but wanted to do something. So I said, you know what, get a box, decorate it pretty, and have everybody put in there something that they remember that made them smile or laugh about this person. And on Christmas, that is your gift to yourself and your family. You open it up and you do that. So it doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be ornaments and Christmas trees and listening to, you know, This Christmas and all of that. Right. So and then for those who may have the triggers of smell. Okay. So, you know, now with us being in COVID, you know, those who do go out, you may go into Home Depot and you know that pine trees is Christmas trees coming out, you know, in October. You can't help the music of that you're hearing with Christmas, but you can control how you feel. Okay, I'm entering the season of Christmas. Okay, how am I going to prepare myself as it comes? And being able to, can we do our activity? Because I'm going into it already.
Yeah. I'm going with
Okay.
me. We can.
Okay. So for those who actually listen to, yeah, y'all better have listened to her. Get a piece of paper and do this. Okay. I want you to have 4 squares. Okay. Okay. So on the top, I want you to write plan ahead.
In one of the boxes?
No, right in the smack in the middle. Plan ahead. Okay. Now, in each one of these boxes, you're going to write, I anticipate that, a blank line. will be challenging. Don't fill it out just yet. Just leave it blank for now. Okay. So I anticipate that blank line will be challenging. Period. To prepare myself, I will 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's going to look like this, and you're going to have this in each and every box. Okay, don't write it all right now. Let's just deal with the first box, okay? So after you write that, I want you to fill that out. I anticipate that whatever that is will be challenging. To prepare myself, I will just write just the first one in case 2 and 3 may be difficult. So while you're writing that, the reason why I have this, to plan ahead, it's important for you to prepare yourself, your mental, your emotional, your physical, for those who are spiritual, your spiritual mindset on how to deal with what's about to come. Okay? Because then once you have that written down, you have to have a plan that's going to work for you. Okay? So I filled out one. Okay? So I wrote, this was the time when I had lost my child, right? And I was in grad school. So actually Thanksgiving was happening. So I wrote, I anticipate that Thanksgiving at my mom will be challenging. To prepare myself, I wrote, sit next to Quincy, that's my husband, or my children, the girls. Okay. My second one I wrote, make a plan to arrive and leave at the time frame that I want to leave. Okay. So that made me realize, okay, you know what? I want to leave. I want to go to my aunt's house at this time, and I want to leave at this time because I know if I extend myself more than I can, then the emotions may come and I may lose it. Okay. And then I wrote for number 3 that I want to drink 3 glasses or 2 or 3 glasses of Moscato because that's my favorite wine. Okay. So yours, if you want to drink wine, yours may be juice. Whatever fits your boat, do it. Okay. Then I just did random ones. So for those who may feel loneliness during the holiday, right? This season, you may either be single or divorced or widowed, or you may be married or have a man or a girlfriend, and you may still feel alone during the holidays. So I anticipate that alone time will be challenging. To prepare myself, I will see one of my tribe members once a month. 2, I wrote, go get a massage at the mall because that's my thing. And if I want to break out, I need to go to the mall and get my massages going. Even during COVID, yes, I went to the mall and got my massages going. And then I wrote, go to bed early because maybe having that a long time may make me feel like, okay, if I'm staying up late, then I should be doing something. And if I'm asleep, I'm not doing nothing. Okay. Another thing could be anticipating buying gifts, right? And so buying gifts during this time is driven through TV commercials. Everything you see is like togetherness, family, buy gifts. All of these things can create different anxieties for people. Okay, so and buying gifts may be that for someone. So I anticipate that buying gifts will be challenging. To prepare myself, I will what? One, I wrote make a budget. Okay, so that I'm not going crazy. I know that I only want to spend, let's say, $300. I'm only going to spend $300. Okay, and 2, limit to my household. we're getting at the space where adults, you can buy your own gifts. I mean, that's just me. I'm sorry. So, I don't need to buy for my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, like, no. I have two younger kids. They get a gift. Hubby may get a gift or not. I may be his gift. I'm just saying. And my mom, she'll get a gift, even though she tells me not to. So, but guess what? If I only want to live with myself to my household, that's what I'm going to do for me. So I'm not stressed out. Okay. And then I wrote 3, start shopping in October or November to avoid crowds or buy online. And that's what I did this year. This year, I shopped online. I went with one day with one of my friends who is a shopping person, and I'm not. I like to go in and come out. I don't like to do all that browsing. I can't. So that day, I just happened to. It was one day. Whatever I got, that was it. Okay. And that helps you to plan ahead, and that lowers your level of anxiety when the day comes. It doesn't have to be holidays. It may be the day that your parent passed away. And so you may want to write this down. So, okay, you know what? I know January is coming. This is the time that such and such passed, or December, February, whatever month it is. And you prepare yourself, right? We prepare ourselves to go to work. We prepare for a job. We prepare for marriage. We prepare for these different things. Why not prepare for how we control our emotions of grief?
Very good. Very good. So definitely take time to fill those out. And if some things are harder to fill out than the others, you already have the blueprint. You can always come back and watch this episode to kind of like refresh and get the information. So we're going to move to the next topic, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Depression during the holidays. So Gidget has I'm gonna call it a podcast. It is what it is. She has a live called Mental Movements that comes on Mondays. And I watched the replay last week because I was like up to here in finals. But you gave such an amazing analogy about like the coat and the winter coat for depression. Like I was walking out, I was like, well, that's good. So now, yeah, if I put on the hat, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna see it differently, because for those, and I think that your analogy was not only for the people who are going through depression, but it's the people that are watching people go through something and they don't know what it is. Because a lot of times, just like with grief, we tend to make up our own in our mind. We tend to give somebody else a prognosis based on limited information, ignorant information, our own experience that may not necessarily have been positive, or how we got through things, or just like the notion and what we say in the world about getting over it, especially in the church. So you have the people that are going through it that again they probably don't even know they're allowing the secondary emotions to cover the depression instead of dealing with it, because we know the scriptures. We saw when Jesus, he went through every single emotion it above all, but didn't sin. So beautiful segue. Jesus in therapy. He literally set the tone for everything, not
everything,
the good things, but how to navigate through. Because it wasn't nothing that he didn't deal with. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He dealt with how. Okay, I feel the preach. I'm gonna stop. He dealt with how he was feeling.
Preach on that.
He dealt with how he was feeling, but he always came back to the nevertheless. But we don't. So for those of us who are going through depression and we don't know how to deal with it, and then those who are watching, because I feel like, in addition to the people not wanting to talk about it because they're told not to. The other reason is that people don't want to talk about it because they've seen others vilified, because they've heard, you know, these cliches that are so misguided and so ignorant about, you know, you're not being saved, you're not having faith, you're not believing God, you just have to believe God. Like, I believe God. Like, I don't want a scripture right now. I don't want a scripture. I know that. I know that. I know that. I don't want to hear that right now. I want to be heard. I don't want to be preached to. I know he's going to deliver. I know he's going to heal. I know he's going to do all of that. I'm pissed off right now at the situation.
Right. And that's the problem, right? Because then we do the what I call the spiritual bypass, right? And so what that means is that, you know, where we over spiritualize stuff and we neglect the emotions and pain that persons are feeling, right? And so one of the, I mean, I'll just share the analogy she's speaking of, right? So with depression, and I'm being specific as overall, okay? I'm not talking about clinical depression because that would be a whole long segment. Okay, I'm not doing MS. I'm not doing the MS the DSB. Sorry, right now. I'm not doing that manual right now. I'm just talking about overall depression. So what I expressed was that depression can come on like a full armor of the winter, right? When you think of the winter as we prepare, we now have our hats, our scarves, our coats, our boots, okay? And so depression can come on to somebody like a hat that they put on. And when you think about a hat, it covers what? Your head, your forehead, and your ears. Okay. And so, just like depression, it can come over and cloud your mind, your judgment thoughts, and you cover your ears where you can't hear anyone clearly. Okay. So, even when, just think about when you have your hat on and it's thick, when people are speaking to you, what is distorted? So when somebody may come to you and speak to you about something that they feel is great for you, you're not in a mindset to hear them or think. Your mind is clouded, okay? Then it can come like a scarf, where when you think of a scarf, it's covered around your neck, and your neck is what? Where your vocal can speak properly. So it may be choking you where it's choking you where you can't speak. Anything that comes out is like you can't talk about it. Okay. Then it can come like a coat where it encases you. When you think of a coat, it's only you that's wearing it. Okay. And so you're going through that alone. You feel isolated within yourself, like the coat that you put on. So now you have this coat of depression where only you are going through this, no one else is. You want to be by yourself. You want to isolate yourself, right? And then when you think about when there's snow like it is now, or rain or sleet, you put on these heavy boots. And when those boots on, they encase your legs. They may encase your feet to make sure that you're warm. So just like depression, it can encase you where you don't want to move. You don't want to go anywhere. You're at a standstill. Okay. And so when a person is heavy with depression, or just, and they may be sitting in the pews, they can go through this winter coat session in spring or summer or fall. So it just so happens that when the cold season comes, people put on all their armor of depression and don't even realize it sometimes. Okay, so it's important for us to recognize that when you're feeling this time, okay, when you're feeling sadness and loneliness, and that can happen. Okay, people, I'm telling you, as soon as October hits, as soon as that clock goes, what, forwards or backwards, I can't remember. Forwards. Okay, no, backwards. Okay, so as soon as it hits, they're like, oh, and it's dark outside. It gets dark real quick. That's how they feel. Okay. And so, how can you break that? You have to, and I would suggest, first and foremost, I would be a terrible clinician if I don't say you should seek therapy. Okay. One of the things that I mentioned, as Stacey said, is that people know the scriptures. Okay. That's not taken away from them going through depression. And what happens is that, going back to the early part what Stacey said in regards to Black people and the community, right? Where did we get this, all of this from? So me and my nosy self, yes, I went to look about it, and I can't, dymphomania, I believe it's called. Dymphomania is where, you guys can look it up if you think I'm lying. What happens is that when we were enslaved, and the slaves were, when they wanted to escape, they call it dysmania, which was considered a mental illness. So think about that. They called us having a mental illness because we wanted to escape slavery. So I believe wholeheartedly the reason why Black people considered mental health the back end or the white man's thing is because they call us escaping from them abusing us mental illness. So it's hard for people to think that mental health or therapy will allow them to escape when they was taught that them escaping from their issues, their problems of abuse, hurt, pain was a mental illness. So I wondered to myself, I wonder if that's why we feel that we can take these things on, because escaping from it sounds like an illness. But I'm here to let you know, no, therapy is not that. Therapy is not for you to think in your mind that you love Jesus any less. Okay, for those who love Jesus, okay? No. There's so many scriptures that speaks on Proverbs that going to counselors to help you to seek the things in your heart that's not together. Okay? He speaks all through his scriptures. I can give you 50 million scriptures. If you want, I'll post them after this thing. That speaks about how therapy is in the Word of God. Okay? And so God did not leave us to be in pain and to suffer. There's not, and I'm not taking away from the altar, but there are people who go to the altar, they cry, okay? They do all of that, roll, jump around, do cartwheels, and go back home and feel lonely, and feel depressed, and feel anxiety, right? And then we have pastors who are mega churches or small corner churches that don't know how to process not only their own cares of life, but the life cares of others to more than an extent that they cannot do themselves. That's why there are therapists. Am I saying it's very, very, and I mean, Stacey, you can, correct me, but I remember being in, because my school was a seminary school, NIAC, okay? And those who study divinity, they go through classes that talk about counseling and stuff like that, but it doesn't go deep. Okay? So that lets you know when you're coming to your pastor with things that, and I'm not saying, because you have pastors who are psychologists and counselors, okay? But there goes beyond some things that they cannot sit down with you 2 hours, an hour every week when they have 500 souls, 300 souls to deal with, right? There's some things that has this chemical imbalances that is not devils, okay? I will pray a demon out of you with no problem, but it's important for us to understand that there's some things that people go through that's beyond our control sometimes, and we need persons to help you to navigate. And sometimes those who are closest to us our pastors, our elders, our, ushers and stuff like that, you have them suffering and they're shouting over it and they're hurting. And I know that to be so because I was one of those people. Okay. Being sad, hurt, and trying to dance it. And after the dance, guess what? I was still broken. Okay. And so I had to seek somebody about my brokenness, and I'm still filled with the Holy Spirit. So it does not diminish your status. So I'm talking to pastors, elders, deaconess, deacons, trustees, all of that, aides, archbishops, whatever title you want to have. Okay. If you need someone to talk to, seek some therapy. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I've seen pastors, pastor wives, their children who have gone through many things that they couldn't let their parishioners know, or even their spiritual close children know. And they were suffering until they had to seek therapy. Okay. So, depression is something that can happen at any moment for some people too. They can smell something and like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I tell you, go through, I know they're advertising this a lot now, mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you how to feel your emotions and how to process it, accept it, and let it go. Okay. It's now become the hype thing, but it's been around for centuries. Okay.
And it's not demonic.
Yes, it's not. And guess what? And because if for those who need to know, they have Christian meditation. If you prefer scriptures, and they have that. Okay. It's not demonic, or any of that. You can sit down and just close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out, right? God has given us breath, and that same breath is what is used, that therapists use, okay, to help you to actually breathe. And I'm not talking, no, because we know we're breathing, right? Because we're alive. But when you sit down, when you're stressed out, just take a moment and sit back with your legs planted on the floor. Feel your feet on the floor. Just and sometimes when you do that, it brings such a calmness to you that you're not easily distracted by your own thoughts. Thoughts is going to come. So just let's be very clear. Okay? But you have to let it pass, because our brains biologically does not like to feel pain. It rejects pain. It rejects any form of anything that's going to threaten. Okay, so biologically, we're set up to reject feelings,
Mm-hmm.
panic. Okay, so if you're not even conscious of how you're breathing, and you have an anxiety and you have shallow breath, it alerts your brain something's happening. We need to protect ourselves. That's biologically. Okay, so then your heart is palpitating, because now your shallow breath, your heart is palpitating because it's saying danger. We have to protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are in touch, you have to begin to be in touch with your feelings and know exactly what is the cause. And only you can know the exact cause of why you're feeling sad, why you feel that hole in your gut, why you feel like someone is laying on your body, why you have the sweaty hands. Okay. And what people don't realize is that when you have all of these different anxieties and different emotions and you're not dealing with them, you can when you internalize it, you make yourself ill. Your immune system goes down. People have shingles earlier than their time because of stress. Okay. Then some people, they break up in highs. They have alopecia. Their hair break out. They get pimples. They black out completely because they're not allowing their emotions to escape. They're trying to hold them. And all it's going to do is cause you different ailments to your body. Some people, they don't even realize, I can't remember the psychological term right now, but you can literally paralyze your own body just with stress.
Wow.
Just with stress alone, right? And so we have to take care of ourselves, and taking care of ourselves is being able to be real with ourselves. Say, hey, Stacy, listen, right now I don't feel like talking to anyone right now. I'm in a crappy mood. Now, if she's mad about it, that's on her. Has nothing to do with you, right? Because when you start taking on, oh, I don't want to make this person feel bad about me wanting to be by myself, or let this person feel, but you have to take care of you. And if that person loves you, they'll understand. Okay. And so it's being able to say that and being okay with it.
Right. So speaking of which, I definitely want to do a part 2.
Okay.
Because I told you that before we got on that I wasn't feeling well. And I'm
Okay.
really, really not feeling well.
Okay. So we're going to pray that you feel well and we do a part 2, baby.
Yes, yes, yes. We're going to pick it up from stress. I have some questions and I have a couple of comments that I want to throw off at you, and then you
Okay.
give your take on what you think about it.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, you guys. I'm sorry I'm cutting it off, but I pay attention to my body. I have not been feeling well all day, and now I do not feel well at all.
Hey, see what we talk about? See?
And
You
yeah,
gotta care for your body.
yeah,
Okay.
I can't go on anymore. I need to go lay down. So do your homework, like and share, leave your comments. I want to hear from you in the comments, or DM me, email me, and tell me what you thought about tonight. And we'll resume in the new year because Christmas is next week. So I pray and hope that enough seeds were sown to cultivate your heart and your mind while we go into the week of Christmas. So Gidget, thanks again.
No problem, sis.
Here is her information if you want to book a session with her. If you want to talk to her, you can DM her, you can email her, and see if you can set up something. Do not suffer in silence. You don't have to, especially in this day and age. You can't have Jesus and a therapist. You can't love the Lord and talk to somebody and get counseling to help you unpack those things. So I am Stacy T, the host of Cultivating Conversations, and you guys have a wonderful weekend. All right. Love you guys.